I stopped eating so much at a time. Instead of eating 3 plates, I cut it down to 1.5. Pretty much stopped eating midnight snacks. I'd eat supper some nights, and I'd get up at 8:30, or not get up, but at 8:30 or 9 o'clock before I'd go to bed, I'd have another plate of food. So I cut all that out, and I cut out sweets. I stopped ice cream. The 2 days before that lady came to do that health test for the insurance thing, I had eaten like 4 bowls of ice cream on Saturday. On Saturday, one day, 4 bowls of ice cream. A little bit out of control, would you say? Loved it. Loved every minute of it. That's why I kept going back for more, I guess. But I seriously had a problem. I made some changes and started eating sensibly, trying to figure it out through common sense on my own. And by the end of September, I went to the doctor and had another test. I had lost 20 pounds, and my blood pressure was normal. All my vitals, the cholesterol, triglycerides, all that was back in the normal range. Within about a month, everything went back to normal. But then Halloween came, and you know you got Halloween candy. So literally through the Halloween candy, I started, lying to myself. Denial is not only a river in Egypt, it's a thing that we all go through. And I started saying, it's little sweets here and there ain't so bad. And I got back on the sweet path. I think I pretty much kept everything else the same, but I got back on the sweets pretty hard and pretty heavy. And my mom, I tell you, she makes some wonderful desserts. And I remember growing up, there was always some delicious dessert on the table. Always. I mean, always. Honey bun cake, cherry, peach, cobbler, you name it, apple pie, pound cake is to die for. And she even puts icing on it. Goodness gracious, it's wonderful. So I got back on the sweets, and by November I had another health checkup that was done through the Clergy Health Initiative through Duke Divinity School, and realized that I'd already gained about 10 pounds back, and my triglycerides and my cholesterol and blood pressure were all back out of whack again. Another wake-up call. I know what I wanted to do, but I could not do it, as Paul says, because of sin that dwells within me. Well, I finally got through the holidays and decided I'm going to cut out sweets. I struggled with it, but then Lent came on March the 9th, and I said, that's it. I'm cutting out sweets for the rest of Lent. And I occasionally had one day a week, or one day every other week, I would have something sweet to eat. And by the end of Lent, well, not the end of Lent, but by about 3 weeks into Lent, I'd gotten down from about 175 to 165. Just cutting out sweets. And started feeling a lot better. And then Christy and I got on this program through the Clergy Health Initiative, which I've got a note in your bulletin about this program we got on just about 10 weeks ago, called Naturally Slim. And I learned a few other things. And went from about 165 to today I weigh 150 pounds. And I feel fantastic. I feel absolutely great. I never thought I would get down to 150. I don't want to lose any more weight, so don't worry. Everybody keeps saying, don't lose any more weight. I don't want to lose any more weight. But this is what I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a little skinny guy. I weighed about 135 pounds when I got out of hospital. Skin and bones. And this is me. This is who I'm supposed to be. Because I'm going to die the other way. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's going to kill me. So I got down to 150 pounds and learned a few other things that were very, very helpful. I highly recommend this program. I'll talk about it a little bit more on the 23rd and the 30th. But through the whole thing, the common thread through the whole thing was sweets. Honestly. Sweets. And I learned that you actually have to give your body time to do what it's supposed to do. You need about 5 to 6 hours in the morning where you don't eat anything. You get about 5 or 6 hours in the afternoon where you don't eat anything. And the burners will come on. And if you just do a little bit of exercise, they'll come on extra fast and extra hot and do what they're supposed to do. Christy has lost about 16 pounds in a month. Dennis, not even, just cutting out sweets, Dennis has lost 40 pounds. He's how, I'm picking on your age, I'm not picking, 57 years old, he's lost 40 pounds. I'm 35, I'm a male, I've lost 40 pounds. Christy's a woman, she's 30, she's lost 15, 16, it keeps going. It can be done at any age group, any level. It can be done. But for me, this all started with conviction of sin. Conviction of sin. And that conviction is something that we shouldn't avoid. We've got to recognize that God is trying to get our attention, not because God's a killjoy, not because God is trying to suck all of the pleasure out of our lives, but because God wants us to have the life that He sent His Son to give us. And that life is in body, soul, and spirit. And I know as soon as I start talking about the word, that horrible three-letter word, sin, some people's minds just shut down. I know that happens. It's happened to me. You hear that word and your mind shuts down because you don't want to hear it. Maybe it's the guilt. You don't want to deal with the guilt. But we have to understand that sin is not just the bad things that we do. It is that, but it's not just the bad things that we do. Sin, as the Bible describes it, all the way back to Genesis chapter 4, is this force and this power that will suck the life spiritually, emotionally, and physically right out of us. It's sin that is this power, this force that does that. God told Cain, that the Cain and Abel thing of that story where Cain murdered his brother, before he did that, Cain had, now I was talking about weight for myself. Cain had an anger issue, obviously. And God told Cain, if you don't master sin, this is my own paraphrase, if you don't master sin, because He said sin is lying at the door, it's crouching at the door like a wild animal, Cain, and if you don't master it, He said you have to master it. And my interpretation of that is, if you don't master it, what's going to happen? It's going to master you, Cain. And it did. His anger and his hatred mastered him. It happens in many different ways. So we have to get honest not only about what we do wrong, but about this power and this force, and realize that it's a force that we have to master, that we have to overcome, but we don't have to do it alone. Sin hurts us, and it hurts others, and it offends a holy God. And it's much, much too powerful for us to overcome on our own. I shared with the kids in the confirmation class this week, and talking about sin and grace, that sin is a force and a power that's much too powerful for us to face on our own. We need help. We need help. And it may not just be with weight loss issues. For those of you thinking, boy, I'm glad I'm not like all those people struggling and are overweight. You may have a problem with pride, okay? Pride is the most insidious and deceptive of all. Thinking that we're not susceptible. I'm glad I'm not like those drug users. Boy, those are really horrible people. People who use drugs and are hooked on alcohol and are alcoholics. Those are other issues. But you know what? We all have different issues that we struggle with. We all have these areas that try to master us. And we have to come to terms with that and realize we're in a battle. They know they're in a battle. We have to realize we're in a battle. And fight. And fight. But I use the example with the kids that sin is sort of like gravity. If you want to launch a space shuttle, you have to overcome the four